Hey, what's going on, everybody? So we're doing the weekend prep going into the week of March 8th. And so I'm looking at things fresh with all of you, and we're just going to see what we see. Again, the goal of this is just to kind of stay on point, just be aware of what's happening, and just have that in the back of our minds as we go into next week to start for our day trading. So first thing I like to do is just see like, well, what's coming up on the calendar. And so it looks like on the 9th, which is Monday, not too much is happening. And then on the 10th, we do have a few things happening. So we got the home sales, existing home sales. So that'll be good a little bit before the open. It looks like we also have Oracle and Baba earnings here. And so that's something we should definitely keep in mind. It looks like those are the only big earnings that are happening next week, really. And so that's just something we'll keep in mind. That'll be, I guess, influence the cues most likely. So we'll see how that goes. And then we got going into Wednesday, we got CPI, so that'll be good for some volatility. Um, I guess we got the I guess we got the daylight savings in the US, and so this will be 7:30 going into next week. So there you go. And then Thursday we got jobless claims and trade balance, I guess. Jobless claims will be the big thing. And then Friday we'll have consumer spending, PCE and durable goods and all that. So a lot of good releases that should kind of move things around. We are kind of in the range right now, so we'll just see what that looks like. Other thing, I guess this is a good thing from yesterday, where there may unsanction Russian oil. So I guess that is friendly for Russia. I mean, maybe they're kind of pandering to them a little bit, so they don't get involved in any situations that are happening in the Middle East with the war. So there you go. That could be what's happening there. Um, and then I guess other than that, the Iran-US conflict is ongoing. I think there's been posts on social media that they're expecting it to go through September. So, we'll just see how we go. I think back to like the Ukraine war, and it just kind of price kept kind of grinding up. Like you thought it was going to fall over, but it just kept going higher. And so here we are like many years past that, and it kept going up. It may do the same thing. I guess we shall see. I did see a post that in LA gas prices are like over $7. So that's not good. So yeah, we'll just see how things kind of shake out there. And so we'll open up our ATASX here. So I try to combine a lot of the charts that I look at. And so just put them on one view. So this is just easy for snapshotting and then just kind of looking, comparing. One note, I guess, with ATASX is I couldn't find, or I don't have the data feed, I guess, for VIX, the index. And so I just got the short-term kind of VIX ETF here. And so this is what we're looking at. So this is not exactly what the VIX looks like. And I guess I can show that on TradingView here really quick. So here's what the actual VIX looks like. Either way, spiking up, right? But what we're showing here on ATASX is just kind of more of the short term from the ETF perspective, which is the same. Like basically, because this is more of like a volatility indicator, right? So you don't really, it's not like you're not trading this technically, right? But you are trading it directionally, right? So there's that. But I guess we'll just kind of walk through each of it. So we got the futures on top, we got the ETFs in the middle, and then we got futures for the YM, R2Y, and the ETF for the short-term VIX on the bottom. And so what I like to look at is just price action. And so when you look at how are the Qs and ES kind of trading, it's like, well, we've just been fighting in this range here, this little box you can kind of see up and down, up and down, up and down. Um, it's interesting for if you zoom out for NQ, like we've been in this longer range, right? Like in the last couple few months, right? And so we're just in it now. We're just in this like other inner range here, and you kind of zoom out similarly for SPY. Um, like we broke out of it wasn't a range from this October area because we did break new highs there, and we tried to keep breaking new highs, and now we're kind of falling over a little bit. So I mean, it's still kind of in a range, um, but I think whatever uptrend we had on the ES, it's kind of turning a little bit, right? And so I would say like the 6700s probably is a line in the sand. We want to see what price does around there, kind of similar to I would say the Q's in this 2400s level, which we were talking about a couple weeks ago. So I think this is still a pretty important level for support. I think 6700s is very important for the ES. So we'll just kind of see how we go there. Gold, like we had that flush, but we keep pushing higher. It still looks super strong. I mean, even with that flush, it's like if you zoom out, right? It's like an uptrend line. Um, so it still seems strong. I feel like again, it's alternative asset with everything else that's happening. So we'll just kind of see how that goes. So what I like to look at here is how did the Q and the um, futures kind of end right for Friday. So it looks like Thursday we were more bearish on volume delta and then more bearish going into Friday as well, but then more bullish going into or ending Friday for the Qs. So that could be a tell. We'll just kind of see how that goes. Um, yeah, and it's interesting if you look at just like the last few days here, as far as like volume delta, like more red on futures, a lot more green on the Qs. So it's like a lot more folks are just buying here. Not sure if it's hedging or not, but it's just a lot more buying happening. So that's something just to kind of keep in mind. There's no agreement. If there was agreement, I think strong conviction in a given direction, but they're not agreeing. So we could bounce around. And then when we look at here for SPY, so this is interesting, right? Like red on ETF, red on ETF, green on ETF, and then red to kind of close the week. So we do have agreement closing the week. So we'll just see what that means for everything going into Monday. So it looks like everybody agrees to the downside. And then we agree to the upside, more or less, on gold to kind of close the week. So we'll see if that plays out going into next week. But, most bets were down for SPY and most bets were up for gold um, going into the end of the week and a little bit mixed for the Qs. So there's that. Um, VIX, obviously new highs, but it looks like not new highs, but definitely a big spike. But looks like a lot of folks are betting for us to go down now. And so let's see, if that pans out. And then, so it's interesting here for the YM, like we've been going down the last 2 days, but there's been more buying. So maybe there's a bounce coming, right? Like where are you going to bounce? I mean, this 46 level looks good. I mean, I guess this low of 40, 45, 70, 700s, right? Like this little pocket. I guess we'll just see if it gets there. Um, and in RTY, we've just been selling off, and volume has been kind of following that. Next support level is this let's say 2500s, right? So let's just see what price does when it gets there. Yeah, I mean, in this little pocket, this could be where buyers step in. Let's see. I mean, we could break that, fake everybody out, get back to here. But let's see. I think there's some good support levels coming up for price. So I will not rule that out for sure. But, we'll just see how we go. So that's what things look like there. So when we're looking at, I like to look at just net premium option flow, meaning that where are people spending money on options. So looking at the last 7 days here on the Qs, look like we had a lot of buying here on the 4th. And then price goes down and it's been kind of mixed. When you look at the SPY, so it's interesting. Not so much buying on the 4th, but lots of selling here on Friday. Lots of put premium there, which matches what we're seeing in the I guess the volume and the order flow. So that is interesting. That's a tell for me, right? To what to potentially look out for next week. Again, like 60% of this net premium is probably zero DTE, but we'll just have to see if that kind of plays out going into next week. For gold, a lot of green. A lot of people were looking for calls, and then we kind of, yeah, Thursday a lot of calls, and then just very mixed on Friday. But yeah, it looks more bullish to me when I'm just looking at it. VIX, not a lot of people expecting it to go up anymore on Friday, it looks like. So that's interesting. So let's just see if we fall back down and everything cools off next week. For the holdings on Friday, so you can't see this for 7 days. It only gives the last day snapshot. So more bearish on the Qs and for the holdings, and more bearish on the SPY for the holdings. So a lot more downside bets on Friday when you're talking about actual shares of the companies within those indexes. And then for Dow, a little bit more buying, I suppose, but kind of muted. And then for RTY, yeah, more bearish, so that matches futures. So I guess my takeaway when I look at this is um, more bearish conviction, I guess, on SPY. So I'll be watching that going into next week. And um, yeah, and it's interesting, like less kind of people expecting VIX to go up from this point to kind of end the week. So they're kind of contra to each other. So we'll just kind of see which one kind of plays out. So that'll be interesting. So that is that. And so we'll look at the top 8 equities here really quick. So this is basically what are the top 8 within the Qs and SPY. NVIDIA holding up. So holding us up. I think that's very clear. Apple also holding up. Microsoft, I mean, it looks like we were selling off, close that gap. Now we're starting to bounce back. So we'll see if that can kind of turn around. Broadcom had earnings and looks like we didn't sell off any really crazy. Maybe there was, did we have earnings? Let's see. Yeah, we had earnings on this day and we've gone up. So I guess that is positive. So we'll see if we can kind of break this trend line down here and keep going up. So that'll be really good for everything. Amazon closing that gap. So let's see. I mean, we may fall and go sideways, but now we're kind of holding up. I mean, longer term, it is still going up. So there you go. Tesla, we got some pretty major support here. So I think that is something to watch. Yeah, we'll see if we can bounce. Meta, I mean, kind of forming like this really wide upward channel situation after it broke down. Um, we'll just see if it can kind of hang out there. I mean, we're still up longer term. So Google has been holding us up for a while. And this is kind of not this is kind of concerning where it broke this pretty major support level. It looks like it swept it down, eked out that bottom there, this 29475, and it bounced. So let's see if it actually holds that as the line in the sand. If it breaks that, I feel like that would signal more weakness, because it's a pretty major level for daily price. So that is something to watch. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think overall when I look at this, things are holding up well, and there's some key support that could kind of keep us up. But if that key support breaks, and I feel like if we're gonna fall over, I think Google has to lead us down. So we'll just see if we break that. Probably Google and Tesla. If it breaks that support and closes below that line, then maybe there's more downside. But right now, price looks like it is holding up. Um, so maybe there's just more range ahead. So that is what things look like there for me. And then so looking at options flow for these top 8, pretty muted on NVIDIA. Ooh, a lot of bearish bets on Apple on Thursday. Interesting. A lot of bearish bets on Amazon. Oof, interesting. A lot of bearish bets on Tesla. Oof, it's not good. Google. There were earlier in the week a lot of more bearish bets, but now kind of neutral. So definitely keeping an eye on Tesla, seeing how Apple plays out, and also Amazon. But with earnings with Broadcom, a lot of bullish bets, so that could kind of pull us up. So it looks a little bit mixed here, but I mean overall price is kind of holding up. It doesn't look like super bullish, but it's holding up. So we'll see how that goes. Um, yeah, so nothing really speaks to me on like strong direction next week as of yet. So it just kind of may bounce around a bit more. So there you go. I had to update my data. So quick look on what we're looking like here on all the sectors. So this is interesting. So tech's in the range like Q's, finances continuing down, consumer discretionary, kind of like Amazon, kind of bouncing back a little bit. So some rotation there. Energy, oil and all that going back up or continuing its up. So that's good. Healthcare breaking down a bit. Interesting. Industrial is breaking down a bit. And Staples breaking down a bit. So I feel like we're rotating out of these into what? Like healthcare, industrials and staples, what back into energy? Are we going back into discretionary? Maybe. Um, so that's something I'll probably read more into over the weekend, but that is kind of interesting there. So money is being rotated out. So we'll just kind of keep an eye on that. Maybe they're getting out to kind of get back into poise back into growth. Um, but I guess energy and oil probably feels like the safe bet right now. Energy, oil, military, all that stuff. Um, so I guess we shall see. We will skip the options for now. And then I guess quick look on the metals and maybe I'll probably rebuild this in ATASX one day as well. But looking at metals really quick. So gold is the strongest still. And I think I mentioned last time I was waiting for silver to get up to this breakdown level before we actually fall over. It looks like we attempted higher. We're kind of pulling back. So let's see if we get a next leg up to this 105. Because I feel like if we're gonna fall, like we have to touch this level first. So we'll see. I don't predict the future, but let's see if that's true. Palladium's kind of holding up in the range. Copper looks like palladium. So yeah, we'll just see if silver can kind of keep pushing up to this level, then I feel like then we'll have a good sell-off. Um, but yeah, maybe there's higher there on gold, so we'll see. Bitcoin, I think they were saying there was like a day that Bitcoin was beating gold for a little bit, and that is not true anymore, or is it? Or I mean, I guess from this low, I guess it was. But you zoom out, like Bitcoin is not performing as good as gold, right? Or oil for that instance. So we'll see. I still have my alerts here at 50 and 30. So I'm not interested in it until it gets to those levels. Oil is breaking out of this downtrend with all the stuff. So let's just see. Let's see if that can continue. Um, Maybe a nice pullback here for continuation. What happened there? There you go. Cool. So yeah, I will be kind of watching that. I don't really trade oil, but hey, like if it gets there, maybe there's something to kind of pay attention to. Um, cool. Well, that's what that looks like. And then I guess we can look at last 7 days of Bitcoin, oil. We already looked at gold, but we can look at silver. We could look at palladium, and then we could look at copper. So for Bitcoin, more bearish. Not ideal. Oil, bullish. I think that's pretty clear. Talked about gold already. There's some more bearish bets here beginning of last week for silver, which didn't really play out. A little bit more relatively bullish bets on palladium, but it's pretty flat, and copper's flat, so not much there. Yeah, so not, I mean, up seems to be the way for oil, which is like the obvious play. So we'll just see if that continues. Um, So yeah, and I guess like for the last thing that I like to look at, so I kind of put this together as like my snapshot of looking at all those things, just kind of a quick view. But this is more geared towards like daily price action. And so obviously lots of red. I think that was pretty clear across the board. So we'll just see if that, and it's interesting, it's really across the board. Only energy is holding us up in the sectors, which is oil, right? Top eight equities. So, Broadcom with earnings pretty strong. Amazon, I maybe there's some news there, but it looks like that was kind of bouncing back. Microsoft looks bullish, but only after like big bearish move, right, for multiple weeks. Um, but yeah, like even the strong names in the top eight equities were bearish on Friday, so that is something to keep in mind. VIX is super up, bonds are super up, dollar is super up, oil is super up. So everything kind of contra to what we trade or what I trade at least. So there you go. And then indexes are super down aside from gold. So that is something to keep in mind. We'll just see if that kind of plays out into next week. Yeah, so I mean that's pretty much it. I don't yeah, I'll be kind of paying attention to the news and all that, and we'll just see how things look. But it looks like down could be the way going into Monday, especially because there's not too much on the news front. So maybe that is like a drift down until something changes, right? Earnings and all that stuff. But then who knows what's going to happen over the weekend? There's bombings and all this stuff happening in Dubai and all this. So we'll just see. Cool. Well, that's all I got. Thanks for hanging out. Good luck and don't get caught. Thank you.